good.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, colleagues, we are super excited today to be joining you live, but pre-recorded, for our very first tea with Group Dentistry, starring the one and only Michael Roub, myself, David Anthony Howard. We both actually have our teacups here. I just want to kind of share you the actual tea that I'm going to be drinking. This is not for a branding moment coming soon, but this is the tea of the day.
I don't know what tea I'm drinking at this point.
As long as it's not Long Island. Still too early for that.
Not really.
So we're super excited. Honestly, Michael and myself have been colleagues and friends and associates in this business of dental for quite some time. And we really were having conversations pre this new world that we're in, just really wanting to offer a thought, some conversation, really more of a fly on the wall of just some of the things that we're thinking in and around the group dental space. So we're super excited for those of you that are joining us and are being able to watch us today. Again, this is our first one. We're really going to kind of talk about some things that we feel are important and that we'd like to share, and just really some things that are on our mind. We want it to be really as natural and free-flowing as possible. We had an outline and scripts and all these things, and we'll kind of channel it and funnel it in that direction. But I want to just kind of get started here. First, just to give you a little bit about our background. Michael, I want to just have you kind of tee it up, pun intended there, to really share with our audience who you are, your role, a little bit about your background. I do want to brag about you a little bit because I do like celebrating my friends and colleagues. You know, I understand that you have not only a diverse level of experience, you've worked with Fortune 500 companies, your background is in investment banking, you understand the M&A world very, very thoroughly when it comes to our group practices and dental. Can you just talk about a little bit about how you kind of got into the business on the dental side, and just kind of share that with us?
Yeah, I think by accident is how I got into into dental, but it goes back a little further.
Yeah.
I got into healthcare by accident almost 20 years ago, and started running groups of surgery centers. So that was my first healthcare service experience and built up a group. I then joined over at US HealthWorks, which is occupational medicine.
Right.
And headed up acquisitions there for a couple of years before I went off and wandered around and did a lot of different things in and out of healthcare. And then I resurfaced at Western Dental in about 3 years ago now. Yeah. CEO Dan Crowley and I'd worked for him at US HealthWorks. So when they decided they wanted to look at taking on acquisitions, I got a call. So I was fortunate to have had a great working experience with Dan before, and to be able to join Western Dental at a time where they were looking to significantly grow the base of business from just historically de novo approach.
Right. Yeah. Okay, very good. And native from?
I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but have traveled around it, up and down and around the country. And I've been in Southern California for, I don't know, 17, 18 years at this point. So
okay,
I'm a Californian at this point, kind of.
Yeah, okay. Very, very interesting. For you, you know, when you talk about occupational medicine, ambulatory surgical care, how do you kind of see that as it relates to dental, or do you have different points of view for each? Or I want the audience really to understand where the overlap is.
I'll answer that question, but first we're going to go back and brag about you a little bit, David. I think we skipped that part.
You're right.
I think you're one of the most connected guys in the dental space. Everybody, you know a lot of people, and a lot of people know you. Very well regarded, and going for 1-800-Dentist, and now Futuredonics, and then sleep certified, where have done a lot and worked with a lot of different types of practices. I think it's worth noting that, and adding whatever additional flavor to that you want to. But I think that this is certainly not a one-sided discussion of industry experts.
No, it's not, and we both have our collared shirts on today in unison. So
a very rare moment in the last 6 weeks. Yeah, very rare.
No, and so just to kind of give you a little bit about my background, my foray into the dental space came through sales and marketing. I actually, in undergrad, thought I was going to be a physician. was actually in medical school. So I'm giving people maybe that don't know some first time information. And then was in the shower one day and realized ultimately that I just was not honestly happy with the choice that I had made, because it was more of something that I was doing that I, at the time, was more about, I think, pleasing my parents and coming from a certain type of family. And I also just kind of had an aha moment that my skills actually translated better to communicating with people and transmitting ideas and being influential in a different type of way. And I made the decision at that time to pivot in sales. Started off doing SEO sales and sales and marketing for a company. Fast forward to now, just to 1-800-Dentist, I was really brought in to kind of help develop and roll out the group practice model. Myself and Ralph Tamando, that was the head of DSO at that time, we were really about establishing those funnels that are so necessary for our group dental practices. It was a tremendous experience for me. It's just interesting also now that fast forward to where we are today, that 1-800-Dentist and Future Dentistry's parent company is providing those emergency referrals and really the predominant source that is doing that. So it's really great to see that that's still happening. I was presented with an opportunity based upon a DSO summit that I helped co-produce in Los Angeles at Future Dentistry. And actually one of the sponsors said, you guys did a really good event, and I'm looking for someone to head up our DSO and dental sleep apnea. And I was kind of picked from that and wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. And so that's kind of what brings me into this world today. Yeah.
Well, and so I'll go back to your question, but I was, when I was talking to, to your boss before you were hired, and and they said they were looking at somebody. I said, you need to talk to David Howard. Like, how did you know that we were talking to David Howard? So I guess, great minds, at least minds in this case, think alike. But, sort of back to the, now back to the question about ambulatory surgical centers, occupational medicine, dental, I mean, really healthcare and, in general, I think that, when I started Inflection 360 and started focusing on, building, really advising clients, what I recognize is that there seems to be people who think about medical and people think about dental, and there are definitely some differences, but largely anything healthcare services, I find that obviously the patient is a client. If you're working as an outsider like myself, not a physician, not a doctor, then the clients are also the providers in the practice, and particularly if you're trying to even add to your group, you're adding other doctors on and services. So the businesses really have the same, right? We know it's all about patient care and coordinated care, and the payers change. I had to learn to stop saying orthopedics and start saying orthodontics. That was a challenge for me at first. I was so stuck saying, so I just go with ortho at this point. But you're talking about the same, this really the same opportunities and challenges, except I would argue on many levels, I think the medical community seems to be, has been proactive. I was seeing in recent weeks in terms of obviously the necessity in care, but even other practices I see that are getting up and running more quickly right now than dental is in, sort of the world we're in right now.
Right. So let's just get right into it, Michael. It's, we've talked about a lot of things, and there are a lot of sources, and I'm sure like a lot of people, you've been on various webinars, groupthink sessions, and really just debriefs. What I think is really interesting, and we've talked about this offline, is the what now, right? Like, so just to give you an example, I was listening to a Marketplace Now podcast on Amy Webb, who's excellent. She kind of used this analogy of spinning out of control, right? When you're driving your car and you're hydroplaning. She's like, naturally you want to slam on the brakes. And that's just your body's number one reaction. But what you need to do is steer into the slide. And I really thought about that. I thought that was a great point. And what it brought me to think about was, even with anti-locking brakes, which most people now have in their car, steering in driving is a very subtle event, right? Like, so there's just minor turns that you need to make in the wheel,
Yeah.
and that will dramatically impact the direction that you're going. I thought about it one step further and said, I almost compare this to somewhat of a hailstorm. Like, you're driving your car, right? And you know you're going to get dents. Your paint could get chipped, your windshield could get cracked. But if you can just kind of keep going at a safe pace, maybe you'll find a bridge, but this will pass too. And so when we talk about that, you know, where are we at now? Like, what is the now?
Yeah, I think that is definitely in dental. I think you know, more than any of the spaces that I deal with, I feel like that's where the now really has to be thought about. And it's um, obviously when you get in a discussion, you know, when you have Steve Built and Brian Kaleo talking, I think half the universe was on that
Yep.
call, you know, call last week, talking about great minds and how Steve's approaching Smile Brands, and knowing that whatever decision we make today might be wrong in 4 hours, but
Right.
we're taking steps, we're taking measured action, right? You know, so if I take that back to the smaller groups or even the individual providers, you know, individual dental practices, it's you know, people are sitting at home right now and they're working on their to-do list. It's been building up at home. They're
Yeah.
painting this, they're fixing that.
Right.
But what they could be doing is, what else should I be doing in my practice?
Hmm.
Did we work on getting our charts up to date? Should we be looking at any other specialties? You know, we wanted to think, you know, all those business to-do lists that you'd never have time for, right? You're so busy working in the practice, you can't work on the practice.
Right.
And now that everyone has time to really work on their practice, what I think that you're seeing, you know, there are some that are moving forward or taking some measured steps, but a lot that
Yeah.
unfortunately are just sitting on the sidelines, kind of wanting to know when this will pass so they can get back to business.
Right.
And I think you need to be you know, it's time to be proactive, and the most proactive thing you can do is just talk to people, talk to
Yeah.
colleagues, talk to other people,
Right.
and just, you know, your insight, my insight, a general surgeon down the street in their
Yeah.
practice, out of specialty. What are people doing? I think, you know, anything you can take away and take action on right now is really, that's the opportunity. That's the now for me of what
Yeah.
people should be thinking about.